Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, Plant-Based Sweetheart. My name is Mary, and today we are going to do a Starch Solution friendly recipe, and it's totally vegan, of course. It is a traditional Armenian dish. It has a silly name. It's called coin beef because the zucchini is cut up like coins. And obviously we're not going to be using beef, so I'm just going to name this zucchini stew, okay? So this is my mom's recipe, but every Armenian mom puts a little spin on each dish, and I totally veganized my mom's dish. It's really hard to find Armenian recipes, vegan recipes, so I hope you guys really enjoy this because it's a very different recipe than what's out there. And let's get into what this recipe has in it. I have 5 zucchinis. I have 1 little box of baby bell mushrooms. You can use whatever mushrooms you like. I just use this. And what else is in there? So we've got 1 whole teaspoon of allspice and a little bit of red pepper flakes to give it a little kick. And we have dried mint in there and some lemon, and I'm going to cream some garlic. Also, since it's a stew, we're going to make rice, and I use this not chicken bouillons. This makes your rice taste so freaking good. But my advice to you guys is use a measuring cup because, you know, 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water. So you want to make sure you know exactly how much water. I like to melt my bouillon cubes before I add it into the rice. If not, then it's gonna sit on top of the rice and it gets really weird and gummy. So do this. Also, I have over here the star of the dish, some tomato paste, and that's pretty much it. It's a very simple recipe, but so yummy, loaded with flavor. I forgot to mention, you're going to need for this whole recipe 1/2 cup of water, and then you're gonna add the tomato paste with it. So for this recipe, you're gonna need 1/2 lemon, and you're going to juice it. And this lemon and garlic and the dried mint, that's gonna come at the very end of the recipe. So you're gonna set those aside. Get all the juice. All right, that's ready. Let it drip down. So this recipe calls for creamed garlic, and what I mean by creaming is you add a little bit of salt and 1 clove of garlic. If you love garlic, you can add 2 cloves. I don't love it that much, so I'm only gonna do 1. And you pound it basically. The salt is what helps cream the garlic. It makes it very, very creamy. All right, and that is ready, creamed. So I'm going to show you guys how to chop these zucchinis into 1/2 moons, and it's a very simple process. Get off the edge. Cut it in half, and then you can do them thin, but not too thin because then they will get really mushy and you don't want that. So, whoop. You got your crescent moon shape. I've already pre-cut about 4 other ones, so this is 5 zucchinis, and I have some in this bowl right here. Also, I wanted to mention that I like my zucchini a little crunchy, so this is totally optional, but I put some salt in here and mix it around and let it sit. So that way when you cook them, they will not be so mushy because the salt kind of takes out the moisture. and they are ready to cook. I don't have a food processor, so I'm having to chop these by hand. But if you have a food processor, you can totally skip this part and just pulse your, what do you call it? Your mushrooms. Totally had a brain fart. And you just want to rough chop them. And because anyways, when you cook them, they're gonna cook down and get really small. So it's totally fine. You don't have to be all professional in the way you cut them. As long as they're small enough, you're good to go. Also, you can use any type of mushroom you like. I'm using baby bell mushrooms. And that is it. They're ready for cooking. So now we're gonna get cooking. It's gonna smell real good in the kitchen. Okay, so first we are going to saute the mushrooms. And of course, there's no oil of any kind. And mushrooms have a lot of water in them anyway, so you really don't need any oil. I have it on low. Just let it sit for a second. So now that the mushrooms are starting to cook and there's water coming out of them, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt to help speed up the process. And now I'm going to add the allspice and the red chili flakes. And you don't want to over saute them because you're also cooking them one more time in the pot. You just want a light saute. Alrighty, so these are done. I had to deglaze the pan a little bit. Now I'm going to take it off the heat because I don't want them to cook much more. Okay, so now we're going to get to the next step. We're going to pour half a cup of water. You're going to need a heaping spoon of tomato paste. Oops, I got some mushroom in there, it's okay. And you're going to turn it on to medium-low. You want to mix this up. Stir it. Once this combines all together and the water starts to boil, then we are going to add the zucchini. So as you can see, it's starting to bubble up. And now I'm going to add the zucchini. As you can see, I didn't add more salt because these already were salted. So the Armenians call it coin beef because normally you're supposed to cut them round, but for some reason my mom didn't like it. She liked it at half moon, so I grew up eating it that way, so that's why I'm doing it. So that's why they don't look like coins and they look more like moons. But really it doesn't matter how you cut it, it's up to you. And so you want to get these to get cooked about like a few minutes. I'm gonna stop mixing it and let it cook for a few minutes. And once it's done being cooked, I'm gonna add back the mushrooms and I'll show you guys that process. So as you can see, this is getting translucent. That means it is really cooked, and we don't want to cook it any more than that. So now I'm going to add the mushrooms in here. I'm gonna stir that up. At this point, I turned off the heat and I added the lemon, the garlic, and the dried mint, and it is ready to serve. You don't want to cover this because then the zucchini will get very mushy and you don't want that. You just leave it uncovered, and if you know that you are going to eat it the next day, then let it come to room temp and put it in your Tupperware, and it will be good to go for lunch tomorrow. So we're just gonna put this aside, and I'm gonna show you guys how I make my rice. So I'm going to make the rice now, and I use 2 cups of rice. So that calls for 4 cups of water, and this is also the liquid with the no chicken bouillon. I'm gonna add 2 more cups. I'm gonna add 2 more cups. And as you can see, the bouillon is well melted and it's not gonna sit on top. And I'm gonna put it on medium high. First I'm gonna stir it. And this is a good time to also add a little bit of salt if you like to use salt. And if you don't, you can leave it out. The bouillon definitely does have salt in it, but I always feel like it's not as salty as I'd like. And I'm just using like a little pinch. So I'm going to stop messing with this and let it come to a boil, and then once it does, I am going to bring it to low and cover it for about 10 to 12 minutes, and then it will be ready. I always like to let the rice sit for at least 10 to 15 minutes after it's cooked, and then I will fluff it out with a fork. So the rice has been sitting for 15 minutes, and now I am going to fluff it with the fork like this. Just work the fork in. Oh, it smells so good. All right, and that is all. See, because there's no oil, you would think like it's gonna stick together and be all clumpy, and look at that, it's nice and loose. Smells so good. So I've plated it all here for you guys, and I've already tasted it, and it is delicious. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and if you make it, please comment, let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this whole video, please like, subscribe, share, and hit the little bell notification to see when I post some more videos. And I will talk to you guys later.